I've seen a dog whose mouth had been wrapped in rubber bands until the flesh rotted off. I've seen a dog whose back half had been crushed by a car. He never stood up again. I've seen a dog carrying a tumor that was 20% of his body weight, and when he saw me, he still wagged his tail. These dogs all had one thing in common. Not a natural disaster, not bad luck. Just one person on one day deciding they didn't want them anymore. In the 7 months I worked at a shelter, I figured out something heavy. But before I get into it, there's something else I need to tell you first. Right now, this second, there are nearly 1 billion stray cats and dogs in the world. What does that number mean? It's more than the entire population of Europe. Around 60,000 people die from rabies every year, most of them bitten by dogs. So this isn't just an, oh, the poor things kind of issue. This is a public health issue, a public safety issue, who we are as people. But have you ever stopped to ask? Animal welfare groups have been spaying and neutering for years. Governments keep funding programs. Shelters never stop rescuing. So why has this number never actually gone down? Taiwan's own animal welfare community has admitted something deeply uncomfortable. After Taiwan's no-kill law passed in 2017, dumping pets actually went up. Because owners started thinking, if I dump my dog, someone else will handle it. A law that was meant to protect animals ended up making it easier to throw them away. And that's the hardest part of this whole issue to say out loud. The problem was never the dogs. The problem is us. But before we get into us, let me show you what it looks like when this problem completely gets out of hand. Summer of 2024, Istanbul. The streets weren't filled with tourists. They were filled with protesters. They weren't protesting the economy. They weren't protesting the government. They were there to protect the dogs. The Turkish government had just passed a law. Round up all 4 million stray dogs in the country, put them in shelters. The ones nobody adopts, put them down. But all the shelters in Turkey combined hold about 100,000 dogs. 4 million versus 100,000. I don't need to walk you through that math. The shelters are death camps. That's what the protest sign said. The government's answer? We have no other choice. This isn't a good guys versus bad guys story. This is a problem the entire world is facing, and not a single country has actually solved it. What are we supposed to do with stray animals? Should we put them down? Before we go any further, I need to clear something up. Because 99% of the arguments around this issue start by confusing these two things. Culling and euthanasia are two completely different things. Culling is when you remove animals, healthy or sick, it doesn't matter, just to push the numbers down. Putting them down is different. That's a medical decision made by a vet for an animal that's seriously ill, in pain, or genuinely dangerous. That's what euthanasia means. Turkey's law says euthanasia, but in practice, a lot of people say this is just culling. The moment that line gets blurred, the entire conversation falls apart. I want to walk you through 3 countries that made 3 completely different choices and got 3 completely different results. Turkey chose removal. Catch them, put them in shelters, put down the ones that don't fit. You've already seen the result. Nationwide protests, vets quitting rather than carrying it out, shelter conditions collapsing, reports of mass killings in different regions. In May 2025, Turkey's highest court confirmed the law would stay in force. Oh, and this isn't the first time Turkey has done this. In 1910, The Ottoman Empire rounded up 80,000 stray dogs from the streets of Istanbul, dumped them on a deserted island, and left them to starve. Taiwan. In 2017, Taiwan became the second country in Asia to legally ban culling. The first was India. At the time, it was seen as a huge moment for animal welfare across Asia. 6 years later, Taiwan's stray dog population had gone from 140,000 to somewhere between 150,000 and 180,000. And here's the really uncomfortable part. Nearly half of Taiwan's public shelters haven't put down a single animal since the ban. Not even dogs too sick to lift their heads. Not even dogs no treatment could save. Why? Because nobody wants to get yelled at. So those dogs just sit in the corner of the shelter, slowly dying. No kill became a political achievement. But the price of that achievement is a group of dogs taking months to die in terrible pain. Even the animal welfare groups themselves now admit, this is more cruel than putting them down ever was. Bhutan chose the hardest road of all. Starting in 2009, they partnered with an international animal welfare group called Humane Society International. Door to door, one dog at a time, catch, spay and neuter, vaccinate, release back where they were. In 2023, they pulled off something no country in the world has ever done. 100% of stray dogs spayed and neutered. 14 years, 150,000 dogs, 0 killings. So what do these 3 stories actually tell us? It's not Bhutan got it right and everyone else got it wrong. It's that this is genuinely possible. But you need 14 years of patience. You need to keep the same plan no matter who's in charge. You need the government and animal welfare groups actually working together. You need a society willing to spend that kind of money. Turkey didn't have those things. Taiwan had some, but got stuck. Most countries give up somewhere along the way. I told you I worked at a shelter for 7 months. In that time, I took care of more than 100 dogs. Most of them were mixed breeds, but there were a lot of expensive breeds too. German Shepherds, Great Danes, Rottweilers. That shocked me at first. Even the dogs people paid good money for ended up thrown away. What was even stranger, most of these dogs weren't afraid of people. They'd been dumped on the side of the road. They'd been starved. They'd been sick. They'd been beaten. And somehow they still had this strange, unreasonable trust in humans. You get down on their level, they walk toward you. You touch them, they wag their tails. That's when something really clicked for me. They never gave up on us. We gave up on them. For 7 months, I watched dog after dog I knew slowly die. Some from joint problems, some from organ failure, some from skin diseases that had gone too far to save. If this kind of pain happened to a person, it would destroy them. But for these dogs, the reason was just one person on one day decided they didn't want them anymore. The biggest thing I took away from those 7 months was this: human selfishness and human cruelty are never going away. Every time I learned a new dog story, the same voice would show up in my head. Fuck, what an asshole. But in those same 7 months, I figured out something else. You can't make every asshole disappear. But you can make sure one less dog ends up dumped by the side of the road. This doesn't have to wait for governments to change. It doesn't have to wait for society to wake up. It starts somewhere much smaller. It starts with you deciding not to buy a pet on impulse. It starts with you paying to get your dog fixed instead of letting her have a litter and giving the puppies away. It starts with you choosing adoption over a pet shop. It starts with you, when you see a stray on the street, taking one extra second to ask, how did she end up like this? Bhutan took 14 years to make sure 150,000 dogs would never have to live on the streets. This is genuinely possible. But it has to start with each one of us. Subscribe, there's a lot more I want to talk about.